There are dire warnings that New South Wales will be hit by increasingly extreme weather.
2015 was the hottest year since climate records began.
Figures show this July was the single hottest month in recorded history.
Australia sweltered through its hottest spring on record.
Climate change is now affecting every country on every continent.
It's the rate that's of great concern.
And what do you put that rate down to?
Oh, it's human activity.
We have everything we need. Some still doubt that we have the will to act, but I say the will to act is itself a renewable resource.
I'm Paul McHugh and I'm from Bradford.
I'm Jelani, I'm from near Hebden Bridge in West Yorkshire.
So I'm Harry and I'm from Kirkstall.
My name's Philip, I live in Doncaster.
My name's Andy and I'm from Bradford.
And the mood on the bridge is great, the atmosphere's been gorgeous all day.
Paul, it's quite positive really. I mean, lots of people say, ignore you like they normally do, but people are taking leaflets and then having a bit of chat about it.
There does seem to have been quite a change, doesn't it, last year or so actually.
We're not knocking on a closed door when we're talking to the public generally.
We don't always have the chance to explain that this is about something which feels so important to me that I think it's so important for the whole human race that it's actually worth disrupting people a little bit.
Yeah, ridiculously important. I feel like it's something that sort of flies on the radar because it's always pushed back as it's just hippies that care about this sort of thing.
There's lots, young people are doing the food. It's like people are just stepping up, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that needs to happen.
Quite impressed by it, to be honest. So I wasn't expecting it, I just worked around the corner, but I think it's quite good that this is happening in Leeds.
Why do people need an individual car or 2 cars per household?
We're not down there being depressed. We have very clear demands about what we want. We've got a very clear structure of how we want it to happen. We just put pressure on.
Hello and welcome back to Leeds in England. My name's Simon Moore and I'm here sat in a park in rather warm mid-20s. It's kind of the middle of a heat wave. We're expecting a super hot day tomorrow. Thought we'd give you an update on climate activism here in the north of England. I'm not alone. Today I'm very happy to be joined by David Barnes. David's a resident of Leeds doing a PhD at the University of Leeds, but more pressingly, he's leading the way as a climate activist. He's been at the heart of lots of exciting progress here in Leeds, including the push to get the City Council to declare a climate emergency, and he's helped set up a new grassroots organisation called Our Future Leeds. So David, thanks for pausing to chat to me today. I know you're pretty much non-stop at the moment, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So it's late July. David and I are just recovering from a very busy week just gone. We were both involved in Extinction Rebellion's summer uprising, where we spent a week blocking one of the key roads into Leeds city centre, the most polluted street in the city. And Leeds was one of 5 cities that took part across the UK. David, before we delve into what happened last week, can you give us an idea of how you got started as a climate activist? Where did this all begin for you?
Sure, absolutely. I've been involved in climate activism of various flavours for about the last 10 years through groups like Friends of the Earth, and I was heavily involved with a group down in London when I was living there for a few years, and then when I got back to Leeds to start my PhD, kind of took a pause from that for a while, but increasingly over the last year I've become more and more concerned with the updates from the IPCC and everything we're hearing about the real emergency we're facing. And so last October I decided I had to get involved again and really get involved. So I joined the Extinction Rebellion group in Leeds and came to one of their first meetings. We met in the back room of a pub, just a small group of us, and sort of everything's really ballooned from there. And so I was involved in initially going down to London when we blocked one of the bridges, and then set up this group within the local Extinction Rebellion movement to get Leeds City Council to declare a climate emergency. So I've been working a lot on that, and then also involved with the Extinction Rebellion down in London at the International Rebellion, where we held central London for a week, which was an incredible and powerful experience. And then more recently in the summer uprising in Leeds last week.
Can you talk more locally? What's and I know you helped to push the council to declare a climate emergency, and that's kind of resulted in this new grassroots organisation called Our Future Leeds. Can you talk us through how that came into being? Because it wasn't. I don't think it was planned, was it?
No, absolutely. It's really sort of come about. There was a small group of us in the Extinction Rebellion group who decided we wanted to get working on this. So we started meeting independently and built our campaign. We got the youth strikes involved, and as well as Extinction Rebellion and other local grassroots organisations such as Frack Free Leeds. And we worked together to lobby the City Council. We met with the councillors, the cabinet members. We took a group of school students to meet a lot of the councillors, and that really swung the balance in our favour. The leading group on the council essentially decided there and then that this had to be their policy to pass this motion. In the process of doing this, this group realised that this was absolutely only the first step. Getting the City Council to declare a climate emergency wasn't going to mean anything unless this was followed up by rapid, urgent, transformative action in Leeds, and that the City Council cannot do this alone. They can't do this without support from the people of Leeds. And whether the City Council is able to do that or not, we felt that this really needed a grassroots response to the climate emergency. This has to be a people-powered movement, and without bringing the people of Leeds with us, we just don't see there's any way that this is going to actually have any meaningful impact.
That's a great summary, and I think interestingly, you've got the Extinction Rebellion action that's been going on across the world and across the UK and here in Leeds, and that's, I guess, locally you've kind of in tandem realised that youth climate strikers aren't necessarily going to flock to Extinction Rebellion. It's got that kind of edgy nature and name to it. Again, like councillors, some of them come along to the protest, but they're not piling in to join in. Whereas Our Future Leeds has created, it's firstly reframed it so it's not just about climate, although that's obviously the underlying kind of issue. But it's also created a potentially more welcoming place for a much wider range of people to join in. I know, like, the first meeting we had for Our Future Leeds a few months ago had over 300 people there, which is just extraordinary for an organisation that had popped up a few weeks before that meeting. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting thing we've got going on. And in tandem to that, Extinction Rebellion, the rebellion continues. So why don't we go back to a week ago when you and I sat down on the bridge just in the centre of Leeds, and we also had a little chat to some of the many people that were wandering past and that were possibly getting involved for the first time, and hopefully it can give us a bit of a sense of what some of the people of Leeds think and know about the climate, feel about the climate, and the kind of actions that they think are necessary for us to tackle the climate crisis.
Yeah. The summer uprising in Leeds that we were both at last week was a really amazing week. it was the first time we'd done anything of that scale in Leeds. And for a lot of people it was the first time they'd come across Extinction Rebellion. So whilst there was some confusion and some reactions from members of the public which were not wholly supportive, on the whole I think it had a really, really important and powerful impact. The number of conversations that I had with people who had come across us on the bridge, talked to people, been given a leaflet, stopped and thought, actually walked away, looked at the leaflet and thought, hang on, I've got to go back, I've got to get involved, this is too important. Having those sorts of conversations is really, it really is why we're doing this. There's various different outcomes of the Extinction Rebellion protests, raising it up the political agenda. Obviously the protests in April had a huge impact, and a lot has actually already happened in the UK in response to that. One of which being the government's adoption of a net zero by 2050 target, which we know is not enough, but it's dragging that conversation in the right direction. I think for the moment Extinction Rebellion is seen as an outlier, as seen as the extreme, but actually it needs to become the norm. It needs to become, business as usual needs to be absolute, urgent, committed, emergency mode focus on what we need to do. So from that respect, I think it's so important that Extinction Rebellion keeps up and evolves and moves on to the next phase of their actions to really get whole society transformations and what we need to achieve in the next 30 years.
Okay, so do you want to just start by saying your name and where you're from?
My name is Muhammad from Kuwait.
Badriya from Kuwait as well.
And do you live in Leeds? Or are you visiting?
Yes.
Yeah.
You live in Leeds. Great. So are you just passing by? Have you come to check this out? Or
Passing by, we were doing a little bit of shopping before we go home.
And what do you make of it?
To be quite honest, it's very interesting because back home we don't have a lot of peaceful strikes, so it's very interesting to experience it close hand, where people are actually dancing and smiling. It doesn't look like a strike. So it's interesting to see. And then I noticed it has you have a lot of words about climate, environment, so I guess it's something about environment and saving, Earth. Probably a little bit about the environmental crisis that's going on now. But that's it.
What are your thoughts?
The same that she said.
Have you been to any protests or anything before?
No. My life in Leeds was mostly studying, so I didn't get to protest or get out much, unfortunately.
Working hard.
Yes, working hard. But you guys are as well. I mean, if you didn't work this hard, there wouldn't be, I guess, a home for us in the future. So what you're doing is noble, and I hope your voices are heard.
And this is a good thing to give awareness for people to do the right thing and to just start from beginning and to stop things that lead to extinctions and harmful for the planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It was great talking to you. We're planning to be here for most of the week, so feel free to come along. There's going to be music and dancing.
Eating.
So, yeah. And at some point, the police may try and... We're lucky that it's usually very,
Peaceful.
it's very peaceful.
Yeah, peaceful, yeah.
At some point, I would imagine there will be arrests, but they're very peaceful arrests, and they will literally happen on this front line and the other front line. And people essentially volunteer to be arrested. And a lot don't volunteer and say, okay, fine, I'll stand here.
Well, good luck. And thank you for what you're doing. It's very noble.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you later.
See you.
Bye-bye.
My name is Gay, and I'm from Headingley. I was very lucky in being able to go down to London when the very big protests were on there. So as soon as I got back here, I joined up with Leeds XR. I think essentially it's a protest against capitalism. And I think it's an amazing protest in that through the youth fight for climate, children have also been brought into the struggle, and they understand these values very easily. I've been a vegetarian for many, many years, and more recently a vegan. And I feel people are just really suckers for the consumerist society. In fact, I don't normally buy things I don't need, so I haven't got a mobile phone. But then I'm quite old, and all the things I need I've got at home in a tiny bedsit, really. I like to be as sort of Spartan and ascetic as possible. I think people are eating too much, buying too much, relying upon manufactured entertainments rather than enjoying talking to other people about ideas.
Do you want to just say your name and where you're from?
It's Angela Palmer. I'm from Otley.
And what do you think of this Extinction Rebellion protest?
I think it's absolutely awesome. I think we need more of them everywhere. I've been following Extinction Rebellion since they started, and I've been waiting for something to happen in Leeds. I know waiting for something to happen isn't really what we should be doing, but I've got small children. I want to be able to join in and do something, and the fact that it's on my doorstep now is amazing. So,
what do you think? Kind of trying to get people's ideas of what needs to happen next. What do you think are the kind of key things we need to do to tackle the climate crisis?
So much. It's big business and the government. They both need to sit up and take notice. So I guess the key things we need to do is just not shut up about it. We just need to keep doing things like this until they take notice and change policy and change what they're doing.
So have you been down here more than just this evening?
Yes, it was Monday, Tuesday and today, which is Thursday. I was working from home yesterday and didn't get the train in.
And how long, you said your friend kind of recommended it and said, go check it out.
Yeah.
Were you expecting it to be like this?
No, I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest. I didn't know there was going to be boats in the middle of the streets. I didn't know there was going to be music. I pictured some tents, but not as many as there would be. Didn't realise the junk food project would be here doing food for everyone and like literally everyone, not just those people who were involved, whether it be passers-by or whether it be homeless people wanting something to eat. It's much more like a nice summer atmosphere festival than a protest, but it's showing how the two can kind of combine to become something really nice.
And it is striking that we're on what is normally the most polluted road in Leeds.
Yeah, and there's no pollution going on. There's there is. There's a petrol generator doing the sound, and I think that's one of the areas people need to be educated in, or more need to be said about it, because a lot of the people have been on social media have been talking about how, oh, isn't it ironic and hypocritical that you're using petrol, you've got some plastic that I've seen, you're causing people to go on longer bus routes, which is causing more pollution. But that's not really the point of it. It is to cause disruption, because unless you change those type of things now, then in 5-10 years time we're going to be in a much worse position than we would be, and sitting outside the town hall isn't going to do anything, because you're not causing a disruption, you're causing a scene that no one's talking about, and those kind of things. You know, yes, you will cause more pollution potentially by blocking the main road, but you know, it's short term versus long term, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We've now got a kind of high jump contest going on over some hay bales. Are you a high jumper, particularly athletic?
I won the high jump championships back in the day when I was in school. Yeah.
How convenient.
I mean, but I didn't jump over something like they're doing now. I did it like going backwards first, and I'd want a nice landing.
You need a crash.
And I think I'd be crap now, but...
There's another child over there you could maybe have another statue off with.
No, they're moving too much.
Yeah, it'd be too easy. Though.
Yeah,
not a challenge.
Easy. Yeah. No, it's been really great.
So I think that was an interesting insight into the thoughts of some of the people of Leeds that we managed to chat to last week. Leodians, as they are very infrequently referred to. A big thank you to my friend Daniel Preston, who helped record some of those interviews and is helping to put together this podcast. So David, now we've had a little time to reflect on last week. What conclusions have you drawn from that action in Leeds?
Yeah, so from my main takeaway from last week is that whilst making our case and doing that by blocking a bridge and essentially disrupting the normal lives of the people of Leeds has been effective in raising awareness and getting it up the agenda, I think for the next phase of the rebellion we need to move our focus onto the 1%, as it were, those who are responsible for, those who have the decision-making power for our UK carbon emissions and really have the power to change things on a structural and fundamental level. Now, what that might be, I don't know. Is it disrupting the work of government? Is it disrupting the work of major corporations and fossil fuel extractive industries? Those come with a lot of concerns, and people in the movement are really struggling to work out how to go about this and what this might mean for Extinction Rebellion and for individuals themselves. I was arrested in London, and I'm now facing a court hearing in mid-August, so I'm grappling with that myself and the impact this has and may have on my life and my career. But I'm still completely certain that I'm doing the right thing, and that personal cost that it might be to me is so small compared to the huge and in many ways terrifying society breakdown of society that we might be facing.
On that note, how do you kind of stay positive, stay motivated? How do you look after yourself whilst being a climate activist?
Absolutely, it's a problem faced by lots of people in the movement, and burnout is a real serious issue. And one of the things to me that is the most positive about doing this is the amazing community of people that we've built up who are involved in this. And to me, the best way to stay positive is to get active. I think that feeling of disempowerment and that people, that I as a person can't do anything is that disempowerment, disenfranchisement is the biggest risk to I think my state of mind and how I view the world. And to me, how I deal with it is to get active and do whatever I can. And that supportive community, the friendships and the connections that we've built up, I think are really the start of the changes that we need to build. That community resilience is going to be so important in the years and decades to come. Take an example of Hurricane Katrina in America. The state patently 100% failed to look after its citizens, and in response to that, citizens decided they weren't going to just let things happen. They needed to take action themselves. And for example, groups of citizens came together and set up health clinics. People for the first time in their lives in New Orleans had health care. It's those sort of things that are going to become ever more important, and to me that's one of the key things about the groups, the grassroots movements in Leeds. It's building that resilient community that are going to need to work together more and more as the real extent of the climate breakdown happens.
Couldn't agree more, and I concur with the community and a feeling, and the strength of it I think is going to be incredibly important in future. But to me it's also an attraction of being involved, actually, is that it is such a friendly, welcoming and supportive group of people to be a part of. On a more individual level, as someone that's been involved with activism for other parts of your life, not just the last sort of 6 months to a year, what advice would you have for an individual who is potentially involved for the first time? This could be to me, actually. What advice would you give to someone who is in danger of burnout because they're just non-stop and they realise it's an emergency and they're potentially not doing enough to look after themselves?
Right, well, to that I know there's a right answer, and then there's what I actually do and what others do. And to me, it's the main thing is that you've got to look after yourself first. Burnt out activists are no use to anyone, and this problem isn't going to be solved in the next 6 months, a year, 10 years. It's an ongoing generation struggle that we are facing, and we're no good to anyone if we can't continue to play this important role. So to me, what we need to do is take time for ourselves, enjoy the good things that we have, that we still have, and that we will continue to have in our lives. And that is, being able to enjoy nature, our communities, time with friends. It's really important to make time for those things. And it is difficult when you're constantly faced with that internal struggle about, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that, I need to be taking these actions, and I need to be getting ready for the next thing. And it's a really difficult one, and I think we're all wrestling with that. And all I can say is that that principle is much in the way of an airliner going down, and you put your own oxygen mask on first, otherwise you're unable to help anyone else.
Very well said. I think personally, reflecting on the summer uprising last week, I think it particularly showed the amazing power of this movement. And in Leeds, there was about 2 weeks between it being decided that Leeds would be one of the 5 UK locations and the first date of the summer uprising. So incredible mobilisation, I think, that happened there. And I do think it's excellent to be actually out there talking to people, giving people... We've talked in Leeds about a climate hub. Extinction Rebellion kind of provided that last week, because it was on the news. It was in a very accessible location just by the train station, and so whether they wanted to or not, people were kind of forced into having these potentially difficult conversations about climate. So I think, but for those that are interested, it provides an opportunity and a perfect place to go and meet people, see what this whole thing is about. And again, as we've heard a little bit earlier, some of the conversations with people that were just passing by, that were getting involved for the first time, were really, really powerful conversations. For me,
I say the highlight of the week. The day on Friday we were clearing up and we were getting ready to take the boat out, and someone brought us a thank you card. They'd been down in the week and they talked to people and seen what it was about, and they just wanted to come back and bring us a card that was a small amount of money, and they wanted to say thank you for what we're doing. They said that their words were, I'm just a passerby, an office worker. I've never been involved in this before, but now maybe I'll be a future Extinction Rebellion member. It was really beautiful and really powerful, and to me that's, it's when you make those connections that it makes it all worthwhile. And the conversations that people were having, the impact it was having on people was palpable, I thought. And I in my own life I know this. I talk about it a lot with friends, some of whom are aware of the issues, some of whom it's completely new, but hardly anyone really appreciates the extent of what we're facing. The way I frame it is I talk about there's people who are working on their houses now. If they're going to do some retrofit work on the houses, there's 3 things that they're doing. They are installing very high levels of security, because looting is going to be the one thing that is going to be a real risk in the future, and the easy targets are always liable to be picked off first. They install a second electric circuit that is able to run off a solar panel and power just a leisure battery in the house, so they can charge laptops just about and phones. And they install super insulation, as I know you've done in your own house, Simon.
With your help.
Yeah, with my help. To remove their reliance on the gas grid or whatever kind of heating system we're using. In a sense, create that resilience on a household level, because if you're going to do this once in the next 30 years, now is the time to do it. So that is the real extent that people who are really switched on to this and what we might be facing, that's the actions they're taking now. And when people actually hear that, it's quite striking how much of a powerful impact that has on people. And we need to be starting to have these conversations. We need to be thinking about this time frame, because really we are locked into major social changes in the society level changes in the next 30 years that I think people are only just starting to wake up to, as it were, including myself. And
So speaking of conversations, there was another kind of key event that happened last week. Off the back of declaring a climate emergency, the Leeds City Council has pledged to work with an organisation that's been going for a few years in Leeds called the Leeds Climate Commission. That's a kind of cross-organisation group that's trying to help the city figure out how it's going to deal with climate change. So last week, the council and the commission had a kind of joint event. It's called the Big Leeds Climate Conversation, and it was a kind of launch event, really. So over the next 2 or 3 months, those two organisations are planning to essentially engage and consult with as many people as they possibly can from as diverse a range of backgrounds as possible in Leeds, to see what kind of potentially more radical changes they want to see, would be willing to accept, and that kind of thing. So there was a kick-off event last week, again, over 300 people there. There was a super panel which did include someone from Extinction Rebellion and the Youth Climate Strikes. We were both there, and I was wondering what your kind of takeaways were from that event.
So, all credit to Leeds City Council. Since they declared a climate emergency earlier this year, they have implemented quite significant changes to things that they're working on and the way they work. So they started off by launching this climate change advisory committee, and many of us were there in the audience to watch it, whereas normally you only get a few people at these council meetings. There was at least 40 to 50 of us there. First order of business was to change the name to the Climate Emergency Advisory Committee, which we fully support. And one of the things they talked about here at that event was the city conversation that was launched last week. So it was a good event. It was very different in nature and tone, I thought, to the Our Future Leeds grassroots event that we held a few weeks beforehand. Yes, good number of people, over 300 people, but in a university lecture theatre with experts, lecturers, academics at the university, and other people from the city council. And in a way, it was more of a lecture type event than ours, which was, we tried to be very participatory and really get people working together in groups and chatting and talking about things and have an opportunity to really have their say. But absolutely, this is just the first event. So while the City Council have done a lot and they are definitely shifting, in some ways it did feel, especially from what some of the councillors said, it did feel in many ways business as usual. There was some self-congratulation in what Leeds has achieved, which is important, but I really think that the scale of what we now know in a way does away with a lot of that, and this is a whole new situation, a whole new ball game we're trying to deal with. So it was an important event, and what the City Council and the Leeds Climate Commission are doing is a big part of it. But I think to try and bring the people of Leeds along with us, it's the next thing has got to be about that real grassroots people-powered response and engaging people on within their own communities and reaching out. And I don't like that word, reaching out, that term, reaching out, but really making sure that this is everyone's climate emergency. But of course, Our Future Leeds will continue to work with the City Council as a critical friend and lobbyist and grassroots civilian-led response.
And am I right in thinking, again, this impresses me if it's true, that Our Future Leeds are going to be working alongside the Council and the Climate Commission on a citizens' jury for Leeds?
That's right, yeah. So one of the members of Our Future Leeds has been leading the charge in Leeds to get this citizens' jury on the climate emergency set up. That is being supported by the Leeds Climate Commission and the City Council, as well as it will have representation from a range of other activist groups, including the Extinction Rebellion and the Youth Strikes and Friends of the Earth, and other organisations that are important as well in this process, such as large emitters in the city and the NHS and business leaders. So they're involved from an oversight perspective to make sure that the process is managed properly. But yes, the citizens' jury is in the process of being developed. It's going to launch in September. Going to be 20 people over 9 sessions. And to give a very brief background on citizens' juries and citizens' assemblies, the principle is broadly the same. They are a representative proportion of the population, so they are very carefully sampled. So it's a random sample, but carefully managed so that you get a representative reflection of the population in terms of demographics and different cultural backgrounds. And the point is that they are independent from the council, they are independent from the political machinations of a city like Leeds, and they are there to act like a jury does and deliberate on these issues. They will hear from experts and a range of people on different sides of the debate. They will then make a series of decisions and recommendations. They will produce a report. Of course, what then happens to that report and what action the city takes is the key thing. Yeah. There's no point in doing this if it doesn't actually have any impact. And whether that impact is that a decision is made by the jury and therefore it is automatically implemented, or if it's over a certain percentage of the jury decide one thing, then it goes to a referendum, for example, and that those models have been used elsewhere.
Yeah.
So they held the first meeting of this oversight panel last week, and that's really what the Extinction Rebellion, Our Future Leeds, and the Youth Strike movement are pushing for. That actually this has to have, this actually has to be enacted, and it can't be just a consultation exercise. If you're going to do it, it has to actually work, and it has to actually lead the way that the city responds to the climate emergency.
So David, on a kind of possibly final note for now, how optimistic are you that all of these grassroots efforts in Leeds, across the UK, possibly even globally, are going to make a difference and going to help us avert climate breakdown?
How optimistic am I? Well, I think whatever, this needs to happen, and however much it is able to avert the worst aspects of the climate breakdown, they are important nonetheless. Personally, I think we are locked into pretty extreme changes in the way we live our lives. And I think all we can do in how we respond to the climate emergency now and in the future is try and really limit the worst aspects of that. But as I said before, it's building that movement is so important in how we do this now and how we work together in the future. So in a way, that's my hope, is that this movement grows and builds and provides our response to the next stage of the climate emergency and climate breakdown. And so over the next few months in Leeds, we've got a series of events coming up. We've got our next Our Future Leeds meeting, and really that is to start getting this wider movement active on the climate, ecological and social emergency we're facing, really empowering people to take action across the city within their own communities. And essentially, what we're doing is we're building a better Leeds. We're building a healthier, happier, more connected Leeds that is also better able to deal with the huge changes that we're facing. So, although there is not much hope for averting the worst aspects of climate breakdown, I think we can go about building a better city and a better society. And really that's what huge numbers of us, ordinary people and not extremists in any way, that's what we're working towards, and that's what we care about.
Absolutely. So I think you're right. An aspect of optimism and hope is actually, well, we're not stopping what we're doing at any cost, and we can't afford to. So as you say, there's plenty coming up here in Leeds. We've got an Extinction Rebellion social to try and draw in some more people after last week's protest. There's your Our Future Leeds event in a couple of Saturdays' time, I believe. There's also things like the climate strike that Greta's calling people towards for the 20th and 27th of September, trying to draw adults into that as well, which will be very interesting to see how that pans out. And then beyond that into October, the 7th of October is the next kind of phase of the national scale, probably international scale rebellion. So plenty to keep us motivated, keep us going here in Leeds. I'm sure wherever you are around the world, there are similar things that you just need to go and find, go and talk to the people that are doing everything they can. That they're no different to you. They're not superheroes. They're just people that have acknowledged we're in a pretty dire situation, and actually it would be irresponsible not to act, not to do everything possible. That's my motivation here in Leeds anyway. So David, thank you so much for joining me today and last week during the summer uprising. More importantly, thank you for all of your incredibly hard work. I know it's not easy, and certainly not whilst you're doing a PhD, but it's massively appreciated. Thankfully, you're not the only one pushing. it is a big team effort, and we are starting to show signs of success.
Absolutely, and thank you, Simon. Yeah, it's been great working with you so far on these activist events, and really happy to continue to do so. And it's great. It's great getting to meet people like Simon, and I hope the same is for other people around the world. That actually it's the people that make this positive. It's the people you meet that make it worthwhile. So thank you, Simon.
Beautiful words, David. Finally, thank you for listening. Thanks to Climactic for having us on the show again. Whatever it is you're doing, keep it up. You're doing fantastic. So from Leeds, it's bye for now, and I hope you have a great day.
Bye, everyone. That didn't really work, did it?
Give old Satan another hour, and I am going home. I can stay in these diggings few days more. I can stay in these diggings, and I am going home. These banking thieves I will not trust. Few days, but with me take my little dust, and I am going home. I can stay in these.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to Climactic, the flagship podcast of the Climactic Collective, a podcast network dedicated to lifting the voices of the climate community. You can find out more about the people behind Climactic and all the shows we produce at climactic.fm. We are a social enterprise podcast network, and we greatly appreciate your support. You can find a link to our Pozible where you can support us directly in the show notes of this episode or from our website. Thank you for listening, and from the whole Climactic Collective, keep up the great work and take care of each other in these climactic times.
The Climactic Collective.